Well, hey, what's going on? So, obviously, kind of a new remodeled little workspace here. I'm kind of stoked about it. I got some new equipment coming and stuff, so I had to do some rearranging. Today, we're gonna play a little game called, is my guitar supposed to make that noise? Is it supposed to do that? Your guitar always makes some noise. And so we're going to talk about the ones where it all comes from and how to kind of troubleshoot noises and buzzes and hums and stuff and where they all come from. So we've got a couple of guitars here. We've got a humbucker. We've got a couple of different kinds of single coils. We've got like 350 amps. So let's go ahead and make some noise. I would recommend that you listen to and watch this video somewhere where you'll be able to actually hear some of this stuff, because it's going to be kind of subtle. So maybe some headphones, maybe some, I don't know. So just know that. So let's go ahead and get set up and get started. Okay, so we fired up the Kemper. This is kind of fun because one of the things you can do with the Kemper is obviously you have models of a bunch of different amps. So what I just want to show you is if you don't plug anything into anything and you have an amp and you turn it on, it's gonna have a noise floor of its own. So there's gonna be some hum, some buzz, right? Before you turn anything on, or before you plug anything into it. In fact, that's like, to me, the easiest way to troubleshoot everything is to get used to this noise, the noise floor and what it's doing before you play anything, before you plug anything in. Let me show you. So we're gonna toggle between a few amps. Now I want you to just listen real carefully. So you can hear the different amps have different noise floors. The other thing is, if you kind of get used to what that sound is, when we start adding elements to it that make their own noises, you'll understand what the differences are and how to troubleshoot that. So if your amp makes that particular amount of noise, like whatever that noise floor is, just kind of get used to what that sound is right away. So let's go ahead and plug a guitar into it now. I'll tell you what, let's plug a pedal board into it first. Okay, so now we've got our given amp noise floor. We know what that is. Now let's go ahead and add a pedal to it. There's no guitar plugged into this. It's just a pedal, a cable, and then the amp. And we have the Keeley D&M drive, overdrive, and distortion pedal plugged in for this demonstration with no guitar coming into it. So just the noise floor of the pedal now added to the amp that we just familiarized ourselves with. So now let's go ahead and add some pedal noise. Now here's the thing. Robert makes such good stuff that I'm not adding any noise. It's kind of a you get what you pay for situation. So that's both of them on, and it hasn't really added much noise, just the pedal by itself, actually, if any, to the the amp noise floor that we have. So that's pretty cool. Let's go ahead and plug a guitar into it now, and we'll start talking about how the guitar starts to add some noise to our whole thing. All right, so we've got the guitar going through a pedal to the amp. We established how noisy our amp was. We established how noisy the amp and the pedal was. We're going backwards to the guitar. Now, this is how noisy the humbucker with our hands on the strings. We'll get to that in a minute. That's how noisy it is. There's going to be a little bit of noise there. If you want to know why that makes noise, you can go and look at our video about shielding, and we can talk about the electromagnetic interference that's coming in through the air from the lights, from any transformers going on, monitors, all kinds of stuff. Any kind of power supply in the vicinity is going to put electromagnetic interference into the air, and then your pickups are going to pick it up and it's going to hear it. Even if it's a humbucker, it will do it a lot less, but even if it's a humbucker, it's a little bit. That is a humbucker. That is a single coil. So it's a little noisier. These are actually really quiet ones, but hear it? Okay. Now this is the question I get all the time. I get these all the time. In my email, in comments on YouTube channels, all over, everywhere. They'll be like, I'm standing there and I'm holding my guitar like this and it's making noise, and then when I touch it, it goes away. How do I get that noise to go away? You don't. Your guitar is supposed to make that noise. That's how it works. And if you want the noise to go away, you turn your volume down. This noise right here is normal. Totally normal. Absolutely normal. And with a single coil, sounds like that. And you touch your strings, and it goes away. That is what is supposed to happen. That's what's supposed to happen. So just know that. Just like that's what is supposed to happen. You're basically what's happening is you're becoming part of the ground. That's all there is to it. You are grounding the guitar. Now it's grounded. The whole thing's grounded through the cable, but you're becoming part of that. You're basically becoming part of the shield, more or less. So we could get super technical about this, and you can jump through the comments and say all kind of things about what you think that means. But the bottom line is, when you touch your strings, that noise going away, and when you let it go, it comes back a little bit, is exactly what is supposed to happen. Okay? Just know that. Now, what if you touch your strings and it gets noisier? Then that means you've got a bad ground in your guitar somewhere. If you touch one of your switch chassis, like down here where you touch the side of the switch and it gets a little noisier, then that means you've got a grounding issue. What if you touch your strings and it doesn't get quieter, but you touch your switch and it does get quieter? That means your string ground is off. So if it gets quieter when you touch your strings, that's good. If it doesn't get quieter when you touch your strings, sometimes it's just a noisy environment, but check it in relation to the other components, the metal components. The jack, the bridge, the pickup cover, the switch. If you have metal showing on any of your pots, touch all that stuff. And if the noise comes and goes pretty evenly across all of those things, then that means everything is grounded correctly. If you touch the switch and it goes, then that means you've got a grounding issue. Something's not grounded correctly. If you touch your output jack and it kills the volume or it gets louder, you've got a grounding issue. So that's how you check it. If you touch your strings or touch any of this stuff, it should all make the guitar quieter about an equal amount throughout the whole thing. This is like the biggest thing. People, all the time, every day, sending me a message. If I do this and I let go of my strings, it gets louder, and then when I touch it, it goes away. I want that to stop. Turn your volume down. Period. That's how it's supposed to work. That's how guitars work. That's what it's supposed to do. So, I just wanted to share that with you today. A little bit of troubleshooting. If you're having noises and scratches and pops and stuff that aren't supposed to be there, and you're trying to figure out if it's a volume pot or a tone pot or a pedal or something, then you want to start eliminating things to see. Okay, so if you've got a guitar plugged into an amp, then the very first thing I would say is unplug everything from the amp and establish what that noise floor is supposed to sound like. Okay, and understand what your amp is supposed to sound like with nothing plugged into it at all. Then plug your pedal into it. Does it add that amount of noise that you don't like? Well, then it's the pedal. Is it a Keeley pedal and it's amazing and it doesn't add very much noise? Then you're okay. Then you plug in your guitar and then all of a sudden you have all this crazy noise and you say, okay, well, now I have all this noise, right? I have all this noise. So if I touch it and it goes away, okay, everything's good, but I still have a buzz. So now we start touching individual components and see if we can get more buzz to come, or if it quiets down like it's supposed to, and you can isolate kind of where your bad ground is. The more accurate way to do it is with a meter and actually put a common ground that you know will be your output jack. That's typically the common ground for the whole guitar. You put your output jack, a probe on your output jack, and then go check each one for continuity between your pickups, the chassis of your pickups, the chassis of your knobs, the chassis of your switch, and just make sure that it is all grounded correctly. And the bridge and strings, make sure that those are grounded correctly. If you touch this and it doesn't get quieter, chances are, if you touch the strings and it doesn't get quieter, chances are that the ground, something's screwed up with the ground. Like the solder in the back here has come undone or something like that. So that's what you got to do. Touch it, does it get quieter? Yep, everything's good. If you touch it, it gets louder, something's not so good. That's it. And it's really as simple and straightforward as that. If you have any questions, oh, the other thing is, well, I guess we could get into star grounding and how that's a bunch of BS and how that it doesn't matter because there's no such thing as a ground loop in a guitar and all that. But that we'll save that for another video. Yeah, pretty cool stuff. I'll tell you what, let's go over some comments from a previous video and a couple previous videos that we've gotten in over the last few days. And yeah, thanks for hanging out. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. If you have questions about noises, where they come from, shielding, any of that kind of stuff, put it in the comments below. This was just kind of a quick thing. It was on my mind today because I was actually doing some stuff with my Kemper and I was thinking, this is making a noise and this isn't. And I realized it was the noise floor in the actual amplifier itself, right? So depending on if it's like a cranked up 5150 with a ton of gain, or it's a really clean Fender, but really old Fenders still have a pretty high noise floor. Like, you know, there's all those variables. So narrow it down to the amp, then plug the pedal in, then plug the guitar in, then start troubleshooting. But remember, this is normal. All right, let's look at some comments. Okay, so the first one, this dude, RV Europe on Tour, commented on the video about paper and oil caps versus poly caps. I showed this video to the old Les Paul Society. There was a sort of a growl after that. Did they agree? That's super hilarious. Yeah, I don't even think I'm allowed in that group anymore because fact-based videos they don't like those. Going against their belief system a little bit. I replied to this and I told him, you should share the video about top wrapping and see what happens. Pretty funny stuff. Let's see. The next person, Small Pass, says this video single-handedly made me buy an original 70s Tele Deluxe instead of a reissue with new pickups. Great video, but you cost me pounds. So, that was on the video about the history of the wide range humbucker and how some of the reissue ones are, they're not as good. And so apparently that prompted him to actually buy a proper one from the 70s. A little bit more money than a reissue. That's pretty funny. But thanks for letting me know that you watch this stuff and you dig it and it helps you to make a purchasing decision. That's what I care about. So thanks a lot, man. Let's see. Reverend Sykes. I optically ruined half of my tools in my workshop just by storing the original acid bottle on a workbench for a couple of days. You most certainly want to use protective gear when working with stronger acids. So I did the same thing. I was fogging some, with acid, I was fogging some hardware to make it aged. And I had a set of drill bits that was sitting within about, 3 feet or something of it. And they were all rusty, and I had to totally throw them away. We'll do a video on that, actually fogging aging nickel hardware, because that's a little bit different than the blacking stuff that we used, the gun bluing stuff that we used before. We'll do a video about that too. Keep It Simple says, do you have Squire memberships for your Patreon page? Ha ha ha. Yes, we do. There is $1, $5, $10, and $25, I think. The $5 being the most popular. So yeah, Squire membership, $5. Maybe that's what I should call it. $5 monthly membership. And I'm going to record a new podcast episode for that tonight or tomorrow morning. And I'll get it up there this week. Because I want to have a new one up there every week on Patreon, just for Patreon patrons. Let's see. Stephen Mozak, question for you. Have you done a video about neodymium magnets? I have made a couple of pickups for cigar box using them. They worked kinda. I don't know if it's my lack of experience or the materials. I am actually formulating content for a video about magnets, like what the difference is between all the main major magnets that are used in pickups and a couple that aren't used very often. Neodymium is one of those that people try to use in magnets or in pickups, but it just doesn't, I don't know. They're really, really strong. So that video is coming. I'm working on it. So just so you know, thank you for inspiring that. And a couple other people actually have been asking questions about charging magnets and stuff like that. So we're going to do a video about magnets coming up. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I think that's the last comment that we had selected for this video. Yep. We will talk to you very soon. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button and the little bell next to it so that you know the next time we make new videos. Thanks for hanging out with me in my new little setup here. I think it's pretty sweet. I think we're going to do some cool stuff here. And I'm excited also once we get into some content creation videos about like actually doing some recording and stuff. It's going to be pretty awesome. That's one of the reasons why I kind of reset this up so that we would be able to do those kind of videos too. Some screen shares and some stuff like that. So it's pretty awesome. Thanks a lot. And make sure you share this and like this video. We'll talk to you soon.